Welcome to today's AJA Lunchtime Live. Welcome to those of you who are joining us for the replay. Today's topic is transitioning Canadian universities to plant-based menus. And we have Eleanor Carrara and David Speight here to tell us all about this exciting new campaign that they're heading up. But first, let's get the chat going, folks. If you haven't been here before, you just go down to the bottom of your screen and you'll see a chat icon that'll bring the chat on the right side of your Zoom screen up. And I want to hear where you're joining us from today. And, another thing I'd love to know when you say hi is, are you going to university? Are you an alumni of a university, and which one? Tell us which university, or if there's a local university that's in your region. So I want to sort of see what universities we might have represented here today. So let's see what's going on in the chat here. Oh, that's me just checking to make sure we're going live on Facebook now. That confused me. I was like, who the hell is that? Hi, Jason, nice to have you here. And Humber College, awesome. We have, let's see. Yes, Debbie's always got a hi behind her work screen. We always appreciate you being here. Brigitte, your University of Windsor alumni, love it. Nina's from McGill. Elsa's U of T alumna. Glenn is U of T Scarborough campus. A long time ago. Yeah, I'm Ryerson, well, or ex-university, I think we're calling it right now. And it's been a long time, but I am still alumna. Well, let's see here. We have Queens. Both a alumni and staff, a current employee. Okay, awesome. That is who is that here? Okay, so hello, that's Emma that said that. John is at the Aurora, is in Aurora, currently at third year, York University. Barry, Edmonton, good old University of Alberta. Alumni of University of Buffalo and University of Waterloo for Robin. We've got you, Vic, here with Janine. Kirsten's at Kirsten, our moderator today in the chat. She's currently at U of A as well. And Paul, Washington, DC. He's an alumni of George Washington University, University of Iowa, and London School of Economics. All right, you are a professional student, Paul. I love it. Okay, well, it's wonderful to see everyone here and to see that we have a lot of university colleges represented. So a few reminders before we jump in. First off, for those of you who are new here, welcome. We love having you join us in the Animal Justice Academy. And just so you know, we encourage chat and discussion here in the AJA community, but we ask that it always be respectful and always in the spirit of bridge building. Just a reminder, folks, AJAers, our featured module of the week is Get Your Animal Advocacy Content Ranking on Google with the founder of Sentient Media, Miko Yarbenbaugh. If you are putting out things like blogs, videos, articles, this is a must watch to be able to get that content to eyeballs. It's not enough to make that content. It's so hard to make it. Let's make sure it's getting seen in the Google rankings. If you're not already signed up for AJA, you can sign up for free, always, animaljusticeacademy.com. And maybe Kirsten can drop that into the chat. And you can access the entire animal advocacy bootcamp course, as well as upcoming panels and workshops. And of course, our fabulous community here and in our private Facebook group. So let's get to the main event. Kirsten, if you don't mind, we're going to spotlight Eleanor and I to begin with. So folks, there's a really promising campaign that's brewing at universities across Canada to transition campuses to plant-based meals. And it is spearheaded by Eleanor Carrara here. Hello, Eleanor.
Everyone.
Yeah. Okay. So Eleanor, I'm just going to give them a little bit of background, and then we're going to bring in. So, folks, Eleanor was recently elected the executive director of the organizing committee for the Plant-Based Transition Coalition. Congratulations, Eleanor, and has been a committed, lifelong animal rights activist and environmentalist. Her activism began 40 years ago with IFAW, using protests and awareness campaigns against the commercial seal hunt and fur trapping. Eleanor's professional career as vice president of sales operations at one of the largest global digital infrastructure companies had occupied most of her time over the last couple of decades. But now, lucky for us, she is dedicating herself full time to combating animal agriculture and promoting plant-based diets. So Eleanor started the Canadian University campaign in the fall of 2020, just a few months ago, really. Well, I guess a year ago, working with the senior leadership, dining and sustainability teams, ambassador and organizations such as DefaultVeg to promote the plant-based transition. So Eleanor, we have you all to ourselves in this in the movement and here at Lunchtime Live. Welcome.
Thank you, and thank you all very much for attending. I'm really pleased to be amongst this audience of like-minded individuals. So thank you very much for attending.
Eleanor. So, we're going to have you and just folks, David Speight, who is the executive chef and culinary director at the UBC, is going to be joining us in a bit. But we wanted to sort of get Eleanor to give us the lay of the land first. So, before we jump in to you really giving us the lowdown on this, Eleanor, I just, first of all, I'm so happy to hear that you are sort of going at this full time. What's that been like, that transition? And how did you decide to do that?
Well, it started really last August, September. I felt that universities had the responsibility to educate their students and to be the leaders in this movement of animal agriculture, to get animal agriculture, phase it out. So that's what got me started. So bit by bit, we started some protests here in Montreal at the University of Montreal and McGill, started writing emails to the president, started looking up all the names of the dining and sustainability teams. And it was a bit arduous to kind of start growing it, but we got to our first steering committee by December. And I was very lucky to have met David Speight at the Forward Food Summit last October. He's been one of our strongest ally and definitely the leader in this initiative across Canada.
Amazing. I love, Eleanor, that you went from corporate and then you just jumped into this campaign. And I imagine you brought a lot of your skills from your corporate VP position.
Well, one of the key things at work and that my boss always said, we got to focus on results. So we got to cut through the Gordian knot and really go for the results. That's what's the most important target. So that's how I've been trying to run this campaign. Of course, it's different at work. You have staff. And so we work together. Everybody has that same focus. But here, they're not my staff, right? So it's a little bit more difficult and the strategy is a little different.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't boss everybody around to do anything, do everything anymore.
That's the big difference.
Okay, so Eleanor, you wanted to give us just a little, bit more of a formal presentation about this project. So let's just dive in so people really know what we're talking about here, and then I'm going to pick your brain some more, okay? And David's.
Sure. So I'll share my screen.
Yeah, please do. All good.
Okay, I'll just put it in presentation mode here. Okay, so again, very glad to be here today. This is really a great opportunity to talk about this project and give it a little bit of visibility and spread the word so that everybody can join together and help it grow. So what we're trying to do is to create transformational change. Phasing out animal agriculture is a big transformational change and definitely a difficult one. So what we are focusing on here is to transition the Canadian universities to a plant-based menu. And to get success, you need a KPI, a key performance indicator. And I thought that 60% was attainable and greater than 50%. So that's how that target came about. Now, it's pretty fast because universities are big machines, lots of processes. So it's a 2-year initiative. Some may get there, but as long as they're on the journey and continue that journey, I think that's what is most important. And here I've just defined what's required to attain a transformational change. One of the important things is allies. You need allies in this. So some of the chefs the Ambassador Program, which I'll talk about, which is composed of students and faculty. You need people on the inside, right? I'm an outsider. We need the help of people on the inside to move it forward. So why universities? So first of all, there are almost 2 million students, university students in Canada. There's millennials, their mindset is ripe for this type of transition. A lot of them already have reduced their meat consumption. It's the responsibility, as I mentioned before, of higher education. A lot of them are already producing the science, yet they're not really living by that science in terms of their meals. And what's most important, and I'll repeat that probably again, is support from senior leadership. It's like a company, right? The CEO has to have that vision and that support, and he has to vocalize it. So that's what leadership in the universities need to do. And the Achilles heel is sustainability, right? Universities are very focused on sustainability, but I'm not sure that the food aspect has had as much attention as it needs to have. So that's what we're working on. The other important aspect is that we require everyone to work together. All the stakeholders have to participate. Leadership, as I said, is the most important. The students, the ambassadors, the faculty, outside pressure, and then we need the dining services, obviously, the ones in-house, the dining and sustainability teams within the university, and the contract food services. It's sort of split. Some universities do it in-house and others contract it out. So what we did is we formed what we called a steering committee meeting. The purpose of it was to facilitate and provide momentum to transition the universities. We wanted to share strategies, our experiences, and create this synergy and enthusiasm and a level of competition, right? If others are doing it and you're not doing it, obviously that's going to motivate you to try to accelerate your transition. You don't want to be at the bottom rung of that ladder, right? You want to be at the top. And obviously, we know why we're doing it, this accelerating destruction of the environment and our health and animals by animal agriculture. And we're holding this roughly every semester, so every 6 months. This is the rough composition of the steering committee. So we've got the dining sustainability teams, like we saw before, the contract food services. We have some plant-based organizations, students, and guest speakers. We've had a couple of guest speakers. We've had an environmental scientist last December, Gerard Bishop, and we're having the PCRM Alison Lenthal in our next one on November the 10th.
Eleanor, can I just interrupt for a second, just because I want to remind the folks that are listening, even if, Eleanor's created a really lovely model here just for transitioning institutions to plant-based meals and menus. So even if you're not, full on going into this university transition program, it's good to keep your ears open. So thank you, Eleanor. I just wanted to put that in there.
Sure. Thank you, Kimberly. So although we're primarily animal rights activists, we really have to focus on the environment here, right? As I mentioned at the beginning, it's the Achilles heel, right? The point of strength and weakness. So that's what they're interested in. That's what we need to focus on. The destruction of the Amazon obviously is probably the biggest example. 10,000 acres per day are being destroyed. And along with that, millions and millions of animals possibly going extinct. And the other aspect is that this summer, I think it really hit home, right? We're always talking about climate change and wildfires here and there. But this summer, I think, was a really glaring example of how bad it is. And it's going to get much worse. What we had last summer is nothing. So we hit almost 50 degrees in BC. We have droughts virtually everywhere this past summer, even here in Montreal. 1 billion sea creatures, I don't know if you're aware of that, but 1 billion sea creatures were literally cooked to death on the shores of BC this past summer. And of course, the unprecedented wildfires throughout the western part of the country. This is a key graph. Now, this only reflects greenhouse gas emissions, right? So beef is the biggest one here. I'm not sure there if you could see it. Followed by lamb, because these are the ruminants and they're producing most of the greenhouse gas emissions. But you can see that every animal protein has a greater emission than the plant proteins. So this, to me, is really a selling point to universities. I mean, you could see it up front. In fact, the University of Cambridge in 2016 had just decided to remove beef and lamb from the menu. That's it. There was no vote, no survey. They just removed it. They were sort of very forward thinking. And then they vastly increased their plant-based menus. What did they do? They also had sustainable fish, and they were able to reduce their greenhouse gas emissions by 1/3. So see what I'm saying? Like, that's important to a university. They look good, right? Because they're increasing their sustainability, they're removing their carbon footprint. So that's where we have to focus.
Can I ask a clarifying question, Eleanor?
Sure.
So when you said 1/3, does that mean 1/3 of their overall footprint of the university, or just of the food services?
I believe it's just the food services,
Okay,
but
got it.
I can check that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Give incorrect information. Yes, thank you, Kimberly. So in terms of balance here, we want to focus on positives, right? It's, I know sometimes we're angry and we want to be negative about it, but we have to try to focus on the positives and the successes that we do see. And as I said earlier, we want to create that bit of a competitive spirit. So it's good that we're sort of having David on, and he is kind of the lead person in this initiative. So what did we do? We basically set our goals. We identified resources inside and outside the universities. We set up meetings, speakers, quite a bit of training, and I can talk about that. Polls are really important in what I do, because I'm always trying to gauge where the universities are, and do they think they'll attain 60% by December of next year? These are sort of the tools that I've been using. And that's where I can see roughly how the universities are split, below 40%, 40 to 60, and greater than 60. But next year, it will be tracking the metrics. So this is the overall timeline of what's been done. So as I mentioned, started with emails to the presidents, gave them all the studies, articles, etc., and say, this is what's happening. And yet you've got a gold accreditation in sustainability. The two just don't go together. Then luckily there was the Forward Food Summit in October of last year. And as I said, that's where I met David and some of the other chefs, and then started building a list of representatives from the various university dining and sustainability teams, and put together a steering committee presented on December the 9th. That was the first one. And we had, like I said, those two great speakers. There was a lot of interest. So in the following year, in January, we had DefaultVeg who presented, and they also then went one-on-one with the university dining services to train them. They trained ambassadors, and we also had a meeting with student governance of last year. So we then held a second steering committee, May 12th. It was with 3 universities, Guelph, McMaster's, and Victoria. It was like a panel discussion. So that was pretty interesting. And I think some of the chefs maybe feel more comfortable when they have a panel discussion as opposed to being the only person speaking. And after every steering committee, I send them an email out and I say, look, this is what happened. These are the successes we're seeing. And again, reminding them that we're depending on their leadership and their support. So the next steering committee will be on November the 10th. It will be with Queen's University. We will also have Alison Lenthal from the PCRM, Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. I did put my email in the chat. Anyone who would like to come, please email me and I will send you that invitation. It's always, I've standardized it so people are used to it on Wednesday, November 10th, between 4 and 5 p.m. Eastern time. Then, I'm not sure if you can see this too well here, but let me remove this. Okay. There, okay. So following this meeting, we'll again follow up with universities. I'm already trying to schedule the next one. I'm not sure if they'll accept, but I'm going to work on that. It's a major university that hasn't presented yet. I'd like them to present given their status in Canada. And then we'll have the fourth steering committee around April, May timeframe, depending on their availability to be there. And then again, the same thing, follow up with universities, write to all of them, and then follow up individually so I can obtain the metrics. And then the program will end officially in December of 2022. Hopefully I will have garnered at least 10 universities specific accomplishments. Like I said, I'll be doing that throughout the year. So hopefully I'm aiming to get at least 10. So it formally ends there, but I would like to keep in touch with them and follow them for at least maybe another year unofficially. Okay, so this comes from DefaultVeg. There's two aspects to it. There's DefaultVeg, which focuses on the public institutions, and there's Greener by Default, which focuses on corporations, but they work together. So here is just to give you an idea of some fairly simple changes that universities or other institutions can make. So make your base plant-based and then offer meat or cheese and other animal products as just an add-on compared to, let's say, what we're doing today, where meat is the principal meal. Create climate-friendly ratios. And the suggestion is a 2-to-1 ratio of plant-based to non-plant-based. And then the one that I think is probably the easiest are things like condiments, milk, desserts. Nobody would notice that you've changed. So that's something that everybody can do. And labeling. It's always important, you know, in the past, it's always vegan, vegetarian, and then the meat eaters would say, well, no, you know, we don't want vegan or vegetarian. So change the labeling, make it more appealing. Talk about flavors, textures, rather than plant-based or vegan or vegetarian. And an inclusive ingredient list, rather than marking dishes as vegetarian or vegan, label the dishes that contain meat or cheese, you know? So start with sort of the lowest common denominator and then add labeling for the others that don't fit into that category. So overall key success factors. The first one and the most important one is the commitment by senior leadership. And I've talked to a couple of universities where leadership has changed and it made a difference. And I think some of the newer ones coming in are more in tune with the environmental impact of animal agriculture. Education, they need to educate their students and their staff on the impacts of animal agriculture. Profitability, I'm mentioning this because regardless, dining services have to remain profitable, right? They can do all of this, but if they go into the red, then it's not going to work. So they have to do it properly, carefully. There's a lot of examples. And what's important is really the next point. They've got to do a lot of meal testing. And that's what Cambridge had done. They kept testing with students to make sure that what they put out there was appealing. And then, as I've been saying, KPIs. Without KPIs, we can't measure success. Therefore, we don't know how we've ended. The challenges that we're facing is the acceleration of universities that are not transitioning sufficiently to meet the 60% KPI. So we have to work on those, but again, it's difficult unless it's proactively coming from them. And then encourage university actions to motivate the retail outlets, because what we've been talking about are the controllable factors. But universities do have retail outlets, and that's sort of a whole other dimension to this. Labeling, Alison Lenthal will be talking about universal meals on November the 10th, but there is the concept now of labeling them. So with respect to sustainability and other factors. What can you do? Here's just some examples. So here we were in front of McGill. This was August, late August of last year. I have the full set of slides. So if anybody is interested in doing a demo to raise awareness, I can help you with that. Then set up a default veg transition themed website. So these are two that were initiated. The first one was University of Victoria that had started this. Just great people at the University of Victoria. So I want to thank them for that. But what this site does, and you have the link in the chat, is it keeps track of the universities in their journey, let's say, towards a plant-based for Canada, UK, and Europe, I believe. And at Dalhousie University, they follow the ambassador training, and they set up a website, and you'll see maybe in the next one here. So they launched a campaign for change. They wrote the letter to the president. Their letter is on that site. You can just take a look at that. They've been engaging with Greener by Default for the ambassador program, and they expanded the reach and influence beyond just the faculty. They went to the various societies. They engaged as students at club fairs. They collaborated with the community. They set up campaigns. So there's lots to be done, right? So we've really got to get out of complacency and do something if we want results. Letter writing. So I have the example, I hope I have some time, McGill University, right? They have the Herbivore Society, just a great group of people. They came to me and said, we want to write a letter asking for more vegan options. And I really bristle when I hear more vegan options, because it's not more vegan options that we want, right? We want a primarily plant-based menu. So I turned it around and I said, take a position of strength. Say that we want plant-based meals with the option to have meat or other animal product add-ons. So they took that and they ran with it, and they put together a fabulous letter that was sent around as a petition. So we've made it fairly generic here. So you just have to fill in the yellow text. And you can apply this to your own university, or if it's not your university, any other university. So I can help with that. And if you are students and you're thinking of doing something, please contact me. But again, we are in a climate emergency beyond anything that we can even imagine. So we all really need to get very, very motivated and do anything we can at this point. And then there's that other sample letter that Dalhousie had written to their president, which is also excellent. So other things you can do, join or start plant-based student groups. Almost every university, these herbivores were the ones I was talking about, but every university has some kind of club, and even not within the university, there are all kinds of plant-based clubs or organizations that you can join. And again, be very vocal. And this, I think, I found this to be really pretty exactly what the problem is. People don't see that it's happening because it's not happening right around them. Like, I'll talk to everybody on my street, no reaction, everything is fine. So this is the issue. But I think this summer, changed some of that here in Canada. So I don't know if you know, but we're in a perilous situation here. We've got a biomass, the Earth's biomass today, unbelievably, is composed of 60% livestock, 36% humans, and 4% wildlife. And if you have seen the World Wildlife Fund graph on wildlife, it has been going down like this since 1970. And we're expected to hit zero by 2026. So just the thought that 60% of our biomass today is livestock is terrifying. So the ask for the audience, be part of the solution. Start or participate in a university campaign in your area. Don't be afraid, even if you're shy. I mean, the McGill herbivores originally, like I said, were shy, but then they were very bold. So I think everybody is capable of doing that. And I can help you, or I can tell you where to go to get to the specific help that you need. But inaction is the worst thing we can do. So next steps for the campaign here, as I mentioned, November the 10th, we have the next steering committee. And as I said, if you want to participate, just write to me. We're going to follow up individually with the principal universities in the first quarter to start gauging the progress, measuring their KPIs. And then the next initiative will be with the ministries of education, because universities were the easiest to get to, right? They're not controlled by parents and so on. But now we're going to go to the ministries to try to replicate this program in the secondary and primary school. So we'll see. It's a little ambitious, but we're not going to stop.
I love ambitious, Eleanor. That's amazing. And we have David here. So we should just, if we can wrap and move on to David while we got him, that would be great. Well,
it's actually perfect timing because this was the introductory slide for David. Anyway, I want to congratulate David. They're at 55% vegetarian, vegan as of September this year with respect to the residence dining halls. And there are no 100% beef patties at UBC. So quite an accomplishment. And I'll leave it at that because I know David will give us more. Thank you, everybody.
Well, Eleanor, and I have lots more I want to ask you, and we have lots more we want to ask about this. So thank you for giving us all the goods so that we really are educated on where you're going with this. So David, welcome, David Speight. So David, I just want to give a little background on folks for you because I wanted to wait until you came, but David is the executive chef and culinary director at University of British Columbia at UBC Food Services. He leads the plant-based initiative with the plant-forward catering model. So as of 2021, as Eleanor mentioned, 50% of all entrees in residence dining were already vegetarian, vegan, with targets for 55% in their September 2021 semester menus. So David's passion for food is only rivaled by his dedication to health and sustainability. He's somewhat of a culinary legend at Rogers Arena, where as an executive chef for 6 years, he developed a nutrition program for the Vancouver Canucks. He kept the 2010 Canadian Olympic hockey players properly fueled for their big games, and he frequently prepared gourmet meals for visiting celebrities, recording artists, and heads of state. He also implemented an organization-wide recycling, composting, and food donation program. You're a hero, David. Woo! Welcome.
Thank you so much. What a lovely introduction, Kimberly. Thank you all for welcoming me here today, this afternoon. It's morning in Vancouver, of course, but I'm thrilled to have an opportunity and talk about our plant-based journey with you all. Before I do that, I just want to congratulate Eleanor on the work that she's done. She is a dynamo, literally getting the ear of very, very important people with very serious jobs and roles and opportunity to make change, and they're listening to her, and that is fantastic. And I did have the opportunity to hear some of her speech this morning, and she is spot on so many things that she mentioned. I will highlight a few. The universities that are very, very proud of sustainability, including our own here at UBC, which is a leading sustainability university for many, many years. we are just now talking about food and the impacts of that sustainable aspect of our university and our campus here in Vancouver. So it is completely not being represented and thought about when universities talk about food. Food is usually something that just has to happen aside from all the other great things that are happening at the university. A lot of times that is because they are contracted out to a third party company. I'd say the majority of Canadian universities are a contracted out model. And we here at UBC are proudly self-operated and have been since the university began. So that's a great opportunity for us to make our own decisions, have sovereignty over our food program, and really lead the way. And even saying all that, it's still hard. It is really hard to change an institution. Institutions are very, very large. Significant change, such as what we're talking about, does take time. But I firmly believe that the time is now. And another thing I will pick up on that she mentioned is there are so many reasons, in my opinion, to reduce animal proteins on our menus and push for a more plant-centric diet. But the one that really resonates with changemakers and leaders at universities is the sustainability and the climate aspect. So we try to use that as our speaking point as why we want to do this. So that's something that I think is important to note. So
David, can I ask
yes.
you just a couple of questions? So when did you get inspired to go this path? And then what happened when you met Eleanor? Like what happened when the worlds collided in a good way?
Yeah, for sure. So you know, I've been a professional chef for almost 25 years now. I'm a graduate of the Culinary Institute of America, and for most of my career, it has been, you know, the token vegetarian or vegan option is the requirement to put on the menu. There was no real talk about sustainability up until maybe about 10 years ago. And then things started shifting. One of my kind of aha moments was, you know, I used to be, before at Rogers Arena, I was a chef of large seafood restaurants in Vancouver, and the Oceanwise program was emerging, and it was based out of Vancouver. And so just the understanding of we can't simply keep pulling fish out of the water the same way that we're doing, that there needs to be regulation and there needs to be thought put into this. And that was kind of my first aha moment around chefs, purchasing, and the impact that we have with the decisions that we make. And then when I was at Rogers Arena, it looked at, we started looking at our food waste. There was no composting program. Everything went to landfill. That was the one stream. And just the size of the jobs that I've had, even at restaurants, there are large restaurants. And then of course, Rogers Arena is a very, very large business. And now at UBC, again, another really big institution. So the change that we have at our doorstep, the availability to make great changes is really large in these positions. So it was at Rogers Arena that I learned that we needed to change our waste streams. And then when I got to the University of British Columbia, plant-based was becoming really identified as a huge contributor to a way to reduce climate greenhouse gases. Student health is very, very important. You know, in Rogers Arena, we talked a lot about health and nutrition for the players, but we really didn't care so much about the guests. Here at the university, much different. They're our students, they live with us, we have a greater responsibility to them. We also understand that our students are primarily between the ages of 18 and 22, and a lot of them are making their own food decisions for the first time of their life. This is an informative time of their year. They're here to learn about so many other things. So we believe that we also have a great role to play from the food providers to teach them about how to make the right food choices. And hopefully they'll learn that while they're here with us, and they will take those lessons learned through the rest of their life. So the great opportunity for universities when it comes
they're
to
the leaders. They're the leaders of our. They're future leaders of our society. So
absolutely. Right. So that's kind of the short journey for me as far as why I push so hard on these values. And what I will say about making change is, like I said earlier, it is very, very hard. It's not impossible. And some key things that helped us, that I always talk about when I speak to others about how we've made the changes that we've made. is, well, in 2017, we created our food visions and values. And it was a set of principles that help inform our decision making. And I thought that was really important for us as an organization, because everybody wants to do these things all the time. And we like to share these great stories, whether it's plant-based, sustainability, reduced packaging, it's Healthy Beverage Initiative, trying to reduce the sugary sweetened beverages on our campus. Everybody likes to do these things until they realize they cost money. And so having those values, it's a public facing document. It's on our website. We speak
David,
to it
can you say what the might have missed a couple of words.
Sorry, it's our food visions and values.
Visions and values. Okay, perfect. Love it.
So it helps inform our decisions, and what it really does is it holds us accountable. So when those tough decisions need to be made, and the easy, profitable decision is one thing, but the tougher, more values aligned thing may be something else. We have this visions and values to try to hold us accountable to those decisions. So that's one of the first things that we did on our journey to make some of these changes. And then speaking specifically about plant-based, I'm a proud graduate of the Culinary Institute of America. I also went to the Vancouver Community College here in Vancouver for a culinary apprenticeship program. And neither of those programs taught how to make great tasting plant-based or vegetable dishes. It was simply the vegetable on the side to the chicken, the meat, the lamb, what have you. And vegetable cookery just wasn't a prioritized thing that they taught chefs. So we knew that if we were going to change what was on our menu, we had to start with training our chefs and retraining our chefs and teach them how to make great tasting plant-based dishes. So we were actually the first Canadian university, I believe in 2018, to host the Forward Food Conference in partnership with the Humane Society. And so that was a 2-day event, and we had 10 of our chefs, but we also welcomed chefs from Whistler, from University of Victoria, the City of Vancouver, some other large institution type food providers. And we cooked for 2 days without a single animal protein anywhere. And it was informative. I knew it was going to be like really great, but it blew even my mind about the passion that chefs have. It taught us that, we can make great tasting food without animal proteins. It's possible. Not only is it possible, it's quite easy and enjoyable and fun to eat. And that was a really good learning for us. And that was kind of our baseline. So we needed to retrain our staff. And then the next thing that we're still working on is education for our students, our guests. It's another key aspect. You can't simply change your menu without letting people know A, why, and B, how come it's so good now? And so we teach our chefs, and we need to teach our students. And one way we've done that is we stopped talking, like Eleanor says, we stopped talking about vegetarian and vegan dishes or vegan options. That's old school thinking. We believe that the term plant-based opens it up. I firmly believe that, the vegans and the vegetarians, they're already there. They're already choosing diets that don't contain animal proteins. We don't need to cater to them or convince them. They already make those decisions. So for us to really make great change, we need everybody to eat more plant-based and less animal proteins. And the term plant-based, we feel, is a lot more open than vegetarian and vegan. And then beyond that, we don't even state vegetarian or vegan on our menus. We use great tasting, flavorful terms to describe the food. But it is still important to identify vegan and vegetarian dishes for those that choose specifically to eat in that fashion. So we use icons to identify that a dish is indeed vegetarian or vegan, but we stopped calling it out on the menu, and we're finding more people are going to try those dishes than just the vegans and vegetarians, and that's really part of the key.
Yeah, because David, we're so used to having like the separate, menu for the vegetarian and vegan. It's like this segregated menu, and so it's just like this wholesome kind of approach to it.
For sure, and we even made a mistake not that long ago. We opened a great, beautiful, brand new dining hall And we were really proud of ourselves at the time. It wasn't that long ago. We opened it in 2018, and so we have one station right in the center. It's kind of the focal point, and we made it our vegetarian station. And we thought, what a great spot to place our vegetarian station, and we called it Vegetarian Station. And we shouldn't have. And you know, we've got kind of like it's in metal work above the station, so it's still there.
Oh, no.
Right, but
Yeah.
you know, a year later, we probably wouldn't have done that. We would have called it something different. But beyond that vegetarian station, we make sure that there's plant-based dishes available at every station. So we have 7 stations in that location. The vegetarian one is exclusively plant-based, but every other station, they all have about 2 menu items on each state, or sorry, 4 menu items at each station, and 2 of them are always plant-based. So we want to make sure that it is everywhere, and it's not something that, you know, if you want to eat plant-based, you have to go to this station, and that's where you go. It needs to be abundant throughout our environment, and that's another approach that we've done. And then one last thing that's brand new to this year that we're really excited about, and it speaks to the education campaign that we're working on, this is we just created and launched our very first climate-friendly food label at UBC, and we're really happy about that. We trialed it at one location, one of our pizza locations called Mercante Pizza, where we make all our own in-house pizzas. We trialed it there over the summer this year to great results. And now we have it at Open Kitchen, which is our largest residence dining location. And so you can walk into our environment and you can see every single menu item has a rating. So we've used the stoplight rating, red, yellow, green. And surprise, surprise, every single plant-based item we have is either a green or a yellow. And all of our animal protein ones are red or yellow. So
oh my God, brilliant. Brilliant. Yeah.
So it helps with helps with a lot of things, and it helps steer choices. And we want to know, because it is new, one of the great things about working at a university is the connection to academics. So we're actually working with a group of psychology students, and they're going to analyze the changes in our students' purchasing patterns based on having these climate labels up. So hopefully that will shed some more light on whether or not that climate label has indeed changed people's decisions like we hope it will.
So exciting. Okay, David, I have 2 questions for you. One, how are the students reacting?
In general, really good, of course. You know, the ones that have been pushing us, it's still not enough, and I hear you, and we're working on that. But in general, it's gone over really, really well. In 2018 was the first year that we actually spent more money on fruits and vegetables and produce than meat, chicken, seafood, poultry combined. So we know that is working. And that's another, you know, speaks to another point that Eleanor raised, is we do need to measure these changes that we're making, because it is important to understand the change that we're making, and it also is a good story to tell to help promote even further change. So it is working. You know, we still get, you know, I'll get out there and we call them station takeovers, and we'll have like a guest chef come in and take over a station for a day and do a new menu. And every time I do it, I only do plant-based now. That's just, you know, if we want to lead by showing our visions and values, then, you know I understand the role that I play, and so I need to do that myself. And so whenever I do that, you know, the lineup is really, really long. People are excited to see the new food and the great dishes. But every once in a while, I'll get a student that comes up to me and asks where the meat is, and I'll let them know that this is simply a plant-based station for the day, and they'll walk away and look for something else. So, you know, not everyone's there yet. We know that, but in general, it's been very well received.
David, also, I want to know, when this sort of idea, you know, you sort of entered the fray with this idea at UBC, what was it like? What was the sort of first initial reaction from the administration? Like, and what did you do to kind of work around that?
Yeah, that's a good question. And in some ways, I feel like it's like obvious, and this is what we need to do. But I say that because I work on this with a lot of like-minded individuals, whether they're within our food team, our dietitians, or from the sustainability team, or the students from our land and food faculty. So those are all kind of easy targets, and those are the people I work with the most on trying to make these changes. So I do feel like we're in a bit of a bubble where it's like, obviously we need to have more plant-based and reduce meat and make these changes. But the reality is, we still we're self-operated, but we still have a budget to adhere to, and that is usually the pushback when we want to make great change. And senior leadership is still, not quite there. The efforts of Eleanor and others that challenge us. University of British Columbia is very proud to be a great sustainable leader, but yet we don't look at our food waste and our food impacts on our environment. So, we're not fully there, and more people need to be convinced that this is the right thing to do. I think the fact that we've got to 55% is amazing. I'd love to see us get to 80% and people start getting uncomfortable when I start talking like that.
Mm-hmm. And do you think, like, what influences those people at the top? Does hearing from students favorably influence them? Or does negative pressure? What works best for them with them?
Great question, and students for sure. So anytime people ask me how they can help, I tell them to write a letter to the president, and I've seen it work firsthand, where a student will write a letter to the president of our university. That letter will trickle down to myself and our food leaders, and it will empower us to make change. So the students are always going to be our greatest voice in a university setting. So that is spot number one for sure. And the second one is universities like being the best at things. So anytime you can measure something that you're doing that is really positive, and let's face it, the climate emergency is a top priority here at University of British Columbia, and I'm sure at many other universities across Canada and the world for that matter. And food has a huge impact on our environment. So it's an opportunity for the universities to be leaders, and they sure do like that. So I think those are two big triggers that we try to push on.
Yeah, I love how you've both woven that into your plans, is that, spark that element of competition. That's really smart. So David, thank you. I know that you didn't have a lot of time to drop in on us. We are going to talk about some of the actions that we're going to take as a collective here in AJA. David, you can drop off if you need to, or you can stay for a couple more minutes till the end, whatever you prefer. Do you have to get going right away?
Yeah, no, I can stay for a couple more minutes.
Okay, well then you'll hear what's going on. So Eleanor, let's talk about, let's review what the options are. So if someone is a student, they can become part of the ambassador program. They could even take on, leading a program at their university. And is there a way that people can find out if there's already a student group at the university? Is there a way for them to find that out?
Well, I think the best way is obviously on the site, but I think if they want to consolidate all the questions through me, then I can do some of that research and get back to them. Okay. So you can maybe take two options there, doing it directly or coming to myself, and I'd be very glad to help. And I have some knowledge of others that can maybe help out with whatever they're trying to do.
Okay, excellent. So, and there is, we have that tracking document as well, Eleanor. Can you explain a little bit about what that is from U of Vic?
Well, yes, like I said, we have some great people at the University of Victoria. Actually, they had taken the climate challenge, and the climate challenge was to get DefaultVeg installed at UVic. They came in second, unfortunately. But they did win a prize money, and what they did with that prize money, they brought the chefs to some plant-based restaurants just to sort of see what's out there. But yeah, what Holly is doing on that site is she's keeping track of the progress of the various universities, even if they haven't gone plant-based, even if they're having some initiatives, like the Default DAL website. She'll put a link to Default DAL. So it's sort of a centralized depository of the various activities at the universities. And she's doing it for more than just Canada. She's doing it for the UK and for the rest of Europe as well.
Well, so that's one action. And David, I'm very conscious that you need to get going. So you know what? I'm just going to put us into gallery view for a second. So there is Jenny McQueen, who is one of our foremost activists in activists in Canada, says, so thankful for David's epic influence at the university. David, absolutely, you are a trailblazer in one of the most significant ways. So can we please thank David for coming on out,
very,
everybody.
Very much.
Thank you, David. And thank you for coming here to really get us sparked up as well. Okay.
Awesome. The rock star of the initiative. Thank you.
That's right. Exactly. So you go back and do your plant-based cooking, David, and Eleanor. I'm just going to, did David get muted by accident? Did you want to say anything before you leave, David?
No, thank you very much for having me. And thank you for challenge. If you connect with your local universities, challenge them to do better. I think they want to. They need support. They need support from leadership. They need to know it's the right thing to do. We all know that it is the right thing to do. But the more people that are encouraging and giving them the motivation to do so, I firmly believe that they will follow. So please do so. And Eleanor, thank you for the work that you continue to do. And Kimberly, thanks for having me on today.
Well, thank you, David. And we've got an action that we're taking out to the whole AJA community, which is 5,000 strong, to write to the local universities. So hopefully we'll be able to put a nice push behind this. So thank you, David. Yeah. Okay, and Eleanor, while I still have you, okay, so folks, you heard one of your, if you're a student, you can become an ambassador and you can get really involved. If you are alumni, you can write to the president if you want, or if you're a student, you can write to the president if you want. But we also have a particular action in AJ that we're asking for everyone to do. So what we've done is Kirsten's going to put in the comments our AJ action brief for this week. And we are asking that whether it's your university, your alma mater, or a local university in your region, to write an email to the food services and to request that they look into this plant-based transitioning initiative. We've got a couple of sample emails for you that you can use. We ask you to, put it in your own words, because there might be multiple emails going to the same university. And Eleanor has very kindly provided some of her talking points from the slides that you can also work in as well. So it can be very simple. If you don't have a lot of time, just put a few lines in referencing this program and Eleanor's email, or if you have more time and you're more inspired, go for it. So at that link, you're going to find all the information on that. And we would love to hear if you write in, and if you hear back, you can let us know in the Facebook group, or send us an email at Animal Justice Academy. No, sorry, what are we? Kirsten, I forgot what our actual email address is. I really don't know. I forgot. Yeah, Kirsten's going to put it in. Yes, academy@animaljustice.ca. Thank you. We've got so many email websites and addresses. Eleanor, anything that you want to sort of add about steps?
Yes. What I want to say is that we're really at the tipping point in terms of how bad the situation is with respect to the planet and animal agriculture. So we really have to take every step possible. And going back to your universities, and always include the president, no matter if you're addressing it to dining services, sustainability, and so on. They have to see this. I mean, I always include them in those emails, like I said, after each of those steering committees. But it's important that they see this is not just coming from me. It's coming from a wide community of university alumni, current university students, and the general public. They represent the science. They have to live by the science. That's what we have to focus on. And in these emails that Kimberly was mentioning, we have to keep the message positive. If it's negative, then we'll just lose the opportunity.
Yeah, we have to remember that these are very probable allies, folks. These are people that are going to be the change makers in our movement, whether they know it or not. So we really need to treat them like allies.
and write to me. Really, I want to help because I saw the difference it made with McGill University students, and I can help anybody to write a letter or whatever else you need.
Yeah. Debbie said, I'll let the University of Manitoba know that I had my aha moment there in 1978. I love it. Any way you can personalize it, that would be great. And we didn't have this as part of the action, but, as David suggested, if you are a student at your university, write the president a letter saying, I'm loving what's happening and why. Okay. So, all right. One other thing, Jason Fonger, who I know works a lot with high schools, he was asking, I know the focus today is universities. How would this process differ for high schools? And some other people were asking about community colleges. I think what Eleanor is doing here is she's creating a beautiful model, focusing on universities, and she's really laid out a lot of the steps very clearly that I think could be easily adapted to community colleges. And then of course, high schools are going to be a different issue because, there's different stakeholders, of course. But definitely we've got a really nice model, and I know people are already sort of working on this as well. So yeah, there is a movement already afoot, bringing plant-based to the secondary school system and the elementary, the other school, the regular school system. So so definitely remember, Eleanor is just one person who, quit her day job finally and decided this is something I'm going to focus on, and she's just gone for it, right, Eleanor? I mean, you just kind of learned as you went.
Yeah. I mean, literally from the very ground up, and then slowly it started to go up. Yeah. But you've got to be relentless. Right? You don't stop, you don't get discouraged, even though sometimes it can be discouraging, I know, especially on the activism side, but you just got to keep going because we have no other choice. I mean, we are literally in a terrible situation, and universities have a responsibility that they have to live up to.
Okay. Well, Eleanor, thank you so much for being here. AJers and guests, thank you for being here. Let's get this action underway and let's support this amazing initiative. Okay. Let's give a thank you now to Eleanor, folks.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Eleanor. And we will see you in 2 weeks for our next AJA Lunchtime Live. Same place, same time. Love y'all, folks. Have a great day.